Hello and welcome. In a watershed moment for India's army, in a landmark decision this week, the Supreme Court has allowed women to sit for the National Defence Academy or the NDA entrance exam. So, sometime next year, the first batch of girls, just 17 years old, will get a shot at an enormous dream. A dream to become officers of the Indian Armed Forces, where one day they could even perhaps rise to becoming a general, an air marshal or an admiral, perhaps someday even the Army, Navy or Air Force chief. Till now, women were eligible for entry into the Army, but through the Officers Training Academy and the Indian Military Academy. The NDA, which recruits cadets fresh out of school, that means between the ages of 16 and 19, which used to be the gateway to permanent commission, remained an all-male bastion. So what are the implications of the Supreme Court's order? Is this a big push for gender equity? Will it attract more women to the armed forces? Is this symbolic or real change? Will women now be able to look forward to a long and ambitious career in the armed forces? Well, the former Army Chief, General VP Malik, joins us now. First, General Malik, the court criticized what it called a mindset problem, and it had to warn the government to change. They were the ones doing the prodding. It all just sounds so regressive, not with the times. Why has the army been so resistant all these years? Is this an all-male establishment rattled, or is there a reality on the ground that many don't know about?
Good evening, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be with you on this program. No, I don't think there's a mindset problem. If you go through the history of the girls joining the armed forces, not only in our country, but other countries also, the orders have to be given by the government. And quite often, even in the Europe, I have noticed that the judiciary was the one which pushed the government to get the girls to take their permanent commission. I can cite so many examples like Germany and UK.
But sure, sir, there was no introspection within the forces ourselves? Why wait for the court to push you? And the court's comments have been really quite harsh.
Look, as I said, that even in many other countries, the courts had to push the government. It's not the decision of the army, incidentally, army, navy or air force, it is the government decision. Now, I'll tell you, there are 4 factors which are considered everywhere. First one, of course, is the suitability, which means the academic qualification, the leadership potential, the physical fitness. These factors are, that is one. The second one is the combat condition in which you expect the girls to take part. I'm talking of the arms and the services, the kind of role they have. In different countries, it is different,
Sure.
Slightly different. The third one is the prevailing social and cultural conditions. And in that, we are still catching up with the Western culture. We haven't really caught up, but in our rural areas, in our small towns, there is still that hesitation of the girls joining the armed forces. And last, of course, one has to see the global experience. And today, when I see the global experience, in which most of the countries, democratic countries, have allowed the girls to take the permanent as well as permanent commission, as well as conscription also is there.
I want to clarify, we're not talking about women in combat roles right now. I mean, that's a whole subject of an entire different debate. Right now, that is not yet allowed. But, General, you talked about the cultural issues, right? Last year, when the Supreme Court ruled that female officers should be granted permanent commission on par with men, at that point of time, the Solicitor General, appearing for the central government, told the court that male soldiers in the Indian Army, many from rural India, were not ready to accept women commanders. Many would find this argument repulsive. Is this an issue at a pragmatic level, though?
Even then, I had disagreed with that.
Okay.
That advocacy even then I had. After all, we've had girls getting commissioned through the OTA for a long time now. We have seen how they function. Similarly, we have the girls today joining the other ranks also. As you know, in the military police, we have got separate units for that. So to say that the men don't accept, I don't agree with that at all. I have seen enough of girls in the Army and also the Navy and Air Force. And it's absolutely not true that the men who come from villages, they don't give due respect. That's not correct.
All right. That would also, I think, go against the tenets of the armed forces. You have to follow your commander. But let's get a retired Captain Shweta Mishra. Captain Mishra, you had to retire as captain because you could not get a permanent commission. So what, after 14 years of service, ahead of your time, you were told you had to pack up and go home?
Yes, to begin with, a very good evening and an absolute honor to be interacting with General Malik. I have served in times when he was the chief, and I have served during Kargil war as well. But I had joined in 1995, and those are the years when the initial policies were such that women officers could join only for 5 years. And once they had completed initial 2-3 years of service, a decision was taken that a further 5-year extension will be given. So yes, the dream to become commanding officer or dream to become a colonel or dream to get a promotion was certainly not there at hands with me. But having said that, the training that was imparted in Officers Training Academy, the motivation that was there with the fellow officers, and the obedience which was there with the men I was around, the men who were under me while I was serving as officer in charge technical store section or officer administrative officer or in any other appointment, the motivation of people which was around was absolutely upbeat. And anyone who says that there are cultural issues and that the men are not yet tuned to take women as leaders is incorrect. I think the men one is commanding or the junior persons around you, they only see your leadership qualities. If you do not have ample leadership quality, irrespective of your gender, you will not be respected. But at the same time, if you're displaying mature leadership qualities, then you will be respected whether you are a man or a woman. So, that point I just can't digest that there are cultural issues and men are not ready.
So interesting, surprising why the government said that. So the government clearly may be out of touch by the voices of the two persons representing the army today. But Captain Mishra, I want to again emphasize on this fact that after 14 years of service, I want all of us in our viewers, if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, to imagine you've been at your job for maybe 20 years and you've reached a certain position. Now imagine knowing that in 15 years you would have reached a ceiling and you can't go any further. So would you say now there's at least more drive, that there's a reason for more women to take up this as a career?
Okay, your voice was breaking, but I get your question. I can narrate my example. When I had put in 3-4 years of service, my male counterparts were about to appear for their Part B exams. And here I was, Part B exam is a promotion, an exam which is mandatory to take promotions in the army, and it is mandatory to pass all subjects. And here I was, there was no reason for me to appear because I knew that I will not be promoted. So yes, at that point in time, there was no reason or no motivation to have a dream and further, get higher ranks. But today, now that the forces are now much more mature with the gender integration that is taking place, the opportunities that have come up for women. Even I will begin from the training time in the OTA. The training that is being imparted in our cases, ours was a special. Ours used to be the special batches where the training was a shorter duration, experimental basis. Was there, but then subsequently now the training is at par with boys in academy. Lady cadets and gentlemen cadets go through the same training, same duration, similar entire physical standards are there. And after that, the short service commission, which is granted to men and women, is identical. And post that, now the opportunity of permanent commission has also opened up. Yes. So most certainly, yes, the dreams can come with the girls, that the aspirations can come with the girls, and the girls can be now performing well. So at the time when I was serving, those opportunities were not there. But then, having said that, I will say that no project can begin, in its full capacity from day one. Okay. Every project has to be incremental.
In the offing, it may be slow, but it is happening in the army.
It is happening. That's what I'm saying. It has incrementally improved from what we were to what happened after 10 years to what is happening now. So for girls to now getting inducted in NDA is a natural progression. Now, I mean, up until now, it was only Officers Training Academy where...
Yes, I mentioned that. Okay. Let's also get in Gurmeher Kaur.
As a short service
Gurmeher Kaur's father, Gurmeher is an army
years.
kid. Her father, Captain Mandeep Singh, was martyred during a counter-insurgency operation in the aftermath of the 1999 Kargil war. Gurmeher, thanks for your time. You know, you displayed incredible bravery and spunk mentally too when you as a college student faced death threats, rape threats, when the ABVP objected to your views on nationalism, right? But you did not break, you did not bend. When you hear some of these specious arguments made in court that, you know, women are not physically and mentally strong as men to be in the armed forces, what's your reaction?
First of all, Sarah, thank you so much for having me. I think I obviously very much find it ridiculous, and these arguments are very regressive. We have seen, you know, like Captain Mishra here said, she's been in the military for a long time, and she joined the military in '95. I was born in '96. You know, women have been taking up leadership roles, have been joining the army, have been mentally strong enough to go through the training that's, you know, at par now at OTA. So when people make these arguments that women are not, you know, are not mentally or emotionally or physically fit enough to be at par with men, these arguments are just generally very regressive. I don't think in 2021 right now there's any ground to these arguments, except it just sounds very almost silly to me.
So young women, you believe, young Indian women who want a career in the armed forces, they don't have any mental blocks per se. But let's try and get some reactions from the audience. If we could just line up Samyukta Thakur, Anandita Singh and Kanika Joshi. You can all just unmute yourself. Let's get some reactions, some views from the audience on our show today. Go ahead, Samyukta.
Good evening, everyone. So I have two questions regarding this. In Siachen, they are posts with only 4 soldiers. They sleep and share the same cramped post for defecation. It is really hard for them to live and sleep with their subordinate soldiers in situation like this. Soldiers undertake patrols that last for over 20 days at times. During this phase, they sleep, bathe, do morning course in open. There can be no separate arrangements for women. In a country like India, women are held at pedestal. It is the culture of our country. And so how do you think women will cope up in a situation like this?
Okay. Who else? Let's go ahead. Can we try and take one more audience response over here? Anandita Singh.
Yes. So I think that the question, the conversation here is about whether women are fit for leadership roles or not. I think that the conversation should be stirred into a different direction, because I don't feel that this is a way to enforce women empowerment in a country where army men have been alleged to rape women. Won't we be putting our women soldiers at risk by enrolling them with these men? And moreover, shouldn't the army vet the soldiers better so that these incidents don't happen again, instead of hiding their crimes? I mean.
Okay. Kanika Joshi.
Good evening, everyone. My question is, will the women officers get period leaves and other concessions so that they don't face any medical issues while working?
Okay, lots of interesting thoughts thrown up over there. I don't know who wants to try and take this. Captain Shalini Singh also, like Captain Mishra, I'm assuming you had to step aside after about 14 years in the army. But before that, I just want to clarify, after listening to all of our viewers, that, you know, women presently are allowed entry into the 10 arms of the army, but not the fighting arms. So that we're not talking about that yet. The decision to accept women into the army's infantry, the armored mechanized forces and artillery, is still to be taken. That is a separate discussion. But the Indian Air Force has deployed women in combat roles. It employs women fighter pilots. The Navy is looking to progressively induct women on board warships. So they've certainly moved forward. But go ahead, Captain Shalini Singh, would you like to try and take some of those questions, thoughts that were thrown up by our audience?
Good evening to all the panelists and the audience who have thrown the question. I think General Malik sir wants to say something. He's raising his hand. If you can allow him to speak before me.
Sure. Actually, General Malik, would you like to respond to the voice of the youth on the show?
Yeah, very interesting, I must say. And firstly, I want to clarify the point regarding the fighting arms. Now, flying a fighter jet or going in a submarine or on a ship is different. We are talking about the infantry, the armored corps, mechanized infantry, and the artillery. The reason is not for any leadership or physical fitness. It is primarily because they fight under conditions where we are not able to give them the kind of privacy that is required for the girls. After all, we have to go by the social norm. Somebody gave the example of Siachen, which is correct. And my son has been there. He had to sleep with 5 or 6 men. And in those conditions, you are not able to give them a separate bunker or a separate toilet and things of this nature. Similarly, when you go out in a tank and you have a night harbor most of the people just sleep under the tank. They cannot be given a private place or a separate place for a toilet or changing, etc. It is for that reason that we are not yet taking the girls in these fighting arms. That is the main reason. And similarly, as far as the leadership is concerned, there is absolutely no difference at all. The Services Selection Board, as far as the leadership quality assessment is concerned, it is the same for the men and the girls. There is no difference at all.
But how do they get to those leadership positions if they can't serve before? But Captain Shalini Singh, could you respond over there?
Just one second.
Sure.
At the time of selection, one of the qualities that is assessed is the potential leadership. I'm talking of that. Potential leadership quality, that is one of the selection criteria in every academy all over the world. And in our case also, the 5-day Services Selection Board that every boy and a girl has to go through, that is what I'm talking of, the potential to become a leader, that is assessed there.
But sir, with all due respect, I mean, perhaps the men should step back and let the women then use the little existing infrastructure there is, because then why should my daughter, for example, feel that she cannot serve her nation because there isn't that kind of infrastructure? But I think it's better for Captain Shalini Singh. Could you maybe take some of those reactions? Lack of infrastructure, will women want period leave? I'm sure if they want it if they're employed in the army or in a corporate office, the issue would be the same.
So, first of all, I would like to say that women officers have brought a lot of laurels to the armed forces, and whatever work they have been doing, they have been giving their, I think, more than 100%, putting in sincere efforts, and they are not taking anything for granted that they are a woman, so they can get some kind of privilege, or they can
not asking for any special treatment, not asking for period leave, not asking for anything like that.
Back to the period leave, I really want to understand from the girl who threw this question that why do you want a period leave? First, you want to join a profession which is meant for national security, and then what you're seeking for period leave. If that is the thought process, then I think then you must rethink.
Well, not just in the army, ma'am, even here, like in a corporate job, in a job as a journalist, we don't ask for, we don't get.
When we have done our training, see, maybe I have a viewpoint that I'm not in favor of a period leave even when we are in the corporate. I worked in corporate also for 12 and a half years after serving in the army. So I think asking for a period leave and all, I really don't agree for that. My viewpoint might differ from any other woman, but this is my viewpoint. Now, when we are talking about a profession which talks about securing the
job environment, every job has a different job environment, working environment.
Yes.
I think we have to take that into cognizance.
Yeah. So, if you are deployed in a situation where you have to take care of your work and you have to be there, you can't say I'm having my period and I want 1 day off, or I'm having a stomach ache and I'm moving with a hot water bag. I think we have to get over it. And I must also say that the training which we do, Officer Training Academy, which has trained us to become officers and stand equally with male officers. I think the kind of training we get over all these kind of, I will say, very small and minor pains of what a woman body undergoes, right? Now, it is very important to understand that whatever General Malik sir has said, I am in agreement with him, but I also say that yes, now it's the high time. It's not that it is the first academy which is going to be open for women. We already have Officer Training Academy, which is there for women. It's been more than 20 years, it is there. So it is just like replicating that kind of a thing when we talk of building an infrastructure in NDA. Definitely NDA has never opened its door for women, so they are not prepared to take a woman just like that. So they have to make some kind of required changes, and that is okay and acceptable, because any place which works as a co-ed atmosphere where a male or woman, even if it is an office, any structure which has a male and female both working together, we have to cater that kind of
so we would have to deal with this in any...
So I think that is a very, very minor requirement. That is not a...
Got it. So it's a welcome change. It must now be buttressed by changes in policy, procedure, training and infrastructure. Okay. Kush Kalra joins us. He's the lawyer and petitioner in this case. And Kush, I'm not going to ask you why you filed this, because we understand the gender equality, etc. But perhaps I can try and pick up on what I think, what I sense those women, our audience were asking. I think they were trying to say that in a war or in operations, one cannot guarantee that women would be safe. What if they're taken as prisoner of war, etc. That women will. You can't guarantee that a woman will only come across a female combatant. What could you add on to or respond to the thoughts raised by our audience?
When at a point we talk about the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and when we see the constitution also, it is mentioned there that there cannot be any discrimination in public employment. So it is very unfair in this 21st century that in NDA the women are not allowed, and that too without any basis. You are allowing the entry in the short service commission, and that too in 10 wings, but you are not allowing in NDA. Now what will change after this? See, the women will get the permanent commission. Now if they get the permanent commission, obviously they will come in the leadership roles, right? Because in a short service commission, your service is for some time. Yep. You can just count it for 5, 10 or 15, right? But when you come for a permanent commission, you can ask for your rights. Now let me come to the infrastructure point. See, in 1980, the Supreme Court in Ratlam municipality case, it said that no government body, it can say that we do not have the funds and therefore we will not follow our duty. So on the point of infrastructure, no one can say that there is an issue, there is a problem. Obviously, it is a settled point that if you are a government body, you need to accept that you are bound by those principles. You are bound by the gender equality.
Which is why the Supreme Court said that these changes can't be seen overnight. It's not going to happen in a day.
See, obviously, I go by that. But the point is, why so much of delay? 21st century, from the day it was established, the NDA was established till this date. What was the issue? What was the problem for not allowing the women in that particular area? And why?
Simply because of infrastructure, at least. Okay, I want to. We have we're winding up. We need to wind up, but I want to bring in Rupali Paul. She's joining us. 27-year-old Rupali. You always wanted to join the armed forces, but I mean, you couldn't. Your reaction to what happened in the Supreme Court this week, and how do you feel? Any message you would have for younger girls who now can join the NDA, something that you always dreamed of but couldn't do?
Yeah, I think, this is a progressive approach towards a society, towards gender equality and women empowerment too. So having said that, the younger girls should be judged on their personality, their intelligence and their physical capabilities. We should not go by what we are going to get in Seattle. We are not talking about combat. It is about permanent commission. So we should focus on that. Talking about combat, we have new warfares. So having said that, person who's sitting in Delhi and she is say from NDA in a permanent commission can do everything. You don't have to just go to the LOC and fight and have a direct, hand-to-hand combat.
Okay, I think we're completely out of time, but would Captain Mishra, you put your hand up? I can give you 30 seconds, ma'am.
I'll just clarify, we are continuously talking about the combatant roles in the infantry and armored corps. Women have joined in the 10 support services, and currently what
yes, ma'am, we're not talking, but I've clarified that too.
Yeah, so it is doors should open for those 10 support services in NDA, and I'll also clarify that the training that is imparted in academies is identical to a person who's joining infantry or who's joining support services, because anyone who's joining support services may face a scenario in subsequent services.
30 seconds to you, Captain Shalini Singh. Last word, closing argument.
Yeah, so it is, I would like to say it's a very welcome change, and it's just not about the infrastructure, it is a complete mindset shift that women can do it if given a chance and equal opportunities. We have not given them a chance till now, so we are giving them a chance, let them prove it. If they are not able to prove it, you always have an option to reverse the order that they are not able to do it.
Of course,
But
I think
give them a chance.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. The Supreme Court has said it is conscious that reforms can't be made in a day. They've granted the government time. I think 20th September, they will file their detailed affidavit about these guidelines. The next hearing on the matter will take place on the 22nd of September. So this is not over yet. But thank you all for joining us, Captain VP, General VP Malik especially. Thank you for your time.